Welcome into another edition of the James Boyd Podcast. I, of course, am James Boyd, joined by the other James, my editor, Jim Aiello. And Jim, the Colts are cooked. It's all over. The quarterback has a broken leg. They have a new kicker. Sauce Gardner is hurt. The sky is falling. No, there's no hope left in this season, right?
That's it. I mean, like I said, this is I was thinking, what else is new, right? It's the Colts, so there's something's always going wrong. They can never enjoy a fully good season. It feels like the years of the Peyton Manning. They just 12, 13 wins like this. That's what this felt like this year. It was like, oh, I remember we were comparing this offense to the Peyton Manning offenses of old, and then all of a sudden now reality has set in, and it's just back to the same old Colts.
Tier. No, I'm joking there. Obviously, for those of you listening, thank you all for tuning in. I promise you the sky is not falling. I promise you the season isn't over. However, things are a lot more dicey than they were 1 week ago at this time, Jim. So let's dive right into it. The Colts are now coming off of their first back-to-back losses of the season. They've lost 3 of the last 4. They no longer have control of the AFC South, no longer in first place for the first time since week 6, I believe you said. Not since week 6, they've not had lone possession of first place in the AFC South. And this last month, November, was not kind to them. They only got 1 win in the month of November. So all that in mind, I think we should start with the fact that this upcoming game against the Jaguars feels so much bigger because of the issues that we're seeing now on a weekly basis, and it starts with that offense. The offense has not been what we saw, Jim. Through the first 8 weeks of the season, you're putting up numbers that are on par with the best offenses we've seen in Indianapolis. Peyton Manning, who? Peyton Manning, who?
I know.
And then now that offense fell off a cliff, especially this past Sunday against a very good Houston team, or at least defensively, that held them to 16 points, which is the season low.
Yeah, I think we always kind of knew this was coming. Like we knew that they weren't going to keep up this historic pace. They weren't going to be the 2007 Patriots, the greatest offense in the history of football. And that was going to, honest to God, like I remember listening to a podcast, not just, at the Athletic, but other places comparing them to those teams. And you're just like, okay, well, this is historic efficiency. And no offense to Daniel Jones, but when we're talking about historic efficiency and Daniel Jones, those things don't usually go hand in hand. And one of the stories you and I bounce back and forth, and I'll be honest with people, is like we didn't end up doing it, at least in this way, because it's not the sexiest thing to like write and say, but the offense isn't bad all of a sudden, right? It's just not historically elite in efficiency. It's like, so I was looking at the numbers for the weeks 1 through 8 when they're 7 and run, right? Like goal to go efficiency was 100%. Sack percentage was they were 3rd in the NFL. Third down conversion, they were 4th in the NFL. 3 and out, they were 3rd in the NFL. Red zone efficiency, they were 8th. Rushing success, they were 1st. Like they were everything you could do. They only had 4 turnovers in those first 8 weeks. Like that's insane. They were doing everything right, and now they fall into goal to go efficiency is 12th. Not bad. Sack percentage is not great. It's 26. Third down conversion 26, but 3 and out percentage 11th. Red zone efficiency 11th. Rushing success 6th. Like they haven't been awful. They just haven't been historically great. They haven't been elite. That has shrunk the margin for error, both for the offense, both for the defense, the special teams. You see a missed extra point by Michael Badgley, and you're like, well, that is going to, when they were winning games by 20 points, a missed extra points, like, hey, whatever. We won by 19 instead of 20. Now, when you're in these tight games against division teams, those margins matter, especially when your offense isn't performing at that level, which, again, it was unreasonable to expect that they would continue doing that. It was fun while it lasted, but it was unreasonable to expect.
100%. And looking at Daniel Jones, I know a lot of people are saying, oh, what happened to him? First, he's playing with a broken leg, reportedly, which is wild to say. It's a fractured fibula. And actually, we were talking to him in the locker room today, Jim, about this. His college teammates at Duke actually own a 3D printing company where they 3D printed a pad for him to wear on his leg. I believe they talked about this on the game broadcast. We got a chance to follow up with Daniel today, and he was saying, hey, it pays to have great friends and great former teammates and very smart teammates. And I was telling him, yeah, my college roommate, who I love to death, that man is very successful, but he is not successful enough for me to trust him with my very physical job and 3D printing, basically a cast for me. So I think it was funny seeing Daniel laugh about that. And he explained the backstory there that he actually got hurt his senior year at Duke. He broke his collarbone, and they developed some kind of 3D printed cast or sling for him back then. And lo and behold, all these years later, they're connecting and bonding over something that's very serious. I mean, it was funny to laugh about it in the locker room, but dude, they're helping you play through one of the more pivotal stretches of your career in a season where it feels like the Colts are going to do what they always do, which is sort of let you down. But I want to give some credit to Daniel Jones because for as much as he's tapered off, I don't think he's been a top five quarterback like he was earlier this year. For like the
Yeah.
first 2 months of the season, he was an MVP candidate, like legitimately a superstar caliber
Yep.
quarterback. He was playing at that level. He's tapered off, but he's still been pretty good. I thought it was pretty good this past Sunday. 2 touchdown passes, no turnovers again. He is compromised a bit. You're not going to see him scramble, I don't think, very much. They're not going to QB sneak him, God forbid, anything like that. However, he's held up his end of the bargain. It's the rest of the group around him, I think, that needs to step up. Not JT necessarily. I think that he's still, superstar JT, but the offensive line has regressed. They're allowing more pressure on him. They're not, really creating the lanes for Jonathan Taylor as they did in the past. And then on top of that, his playmakers, I thought and have thought, haven't helped him out enough. Michael Pittman Jr., Josh
Yeah.
Downs, those guys got to step up because to me
Yeah.
right now, the only two pass catchers that you can really rely on that have been playmakers over the last 2 weeks have been Tyler Warren and Alec Pierce, who I think has been fantastic.
I
So
yeah. Yeah.
I'm very curious your thoughts on that part of it because it's so easy to point your finger and say, well, the quarterback has to be better. But he has been. It's the other guys, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was going to say when you were calling out the playmakers, I was like, man, wait, hold on. Alec Pierce is like he's trying to make himself some money, man. I think like, yeah, I saw somebody
Boy,
saying
is
he's
he
going to get
making
20
it.
mil. Yeah, I saw somebody think he's going to get 20 mil a year on the open market, and I think that might be right, honest to God. So the Colts have to. That'll be a problem to figure out in the offseason. But you're right. Even, I will say, even Tyler Warren, I feel like I knew he had 7 catches for uh, what am I missing the yards here? 76 yards. Oh no, I'm sorry. I flipped it. My bad. He only had 3 catches this last game, and I feel like he has slowed down a little bit. Not to say that he hasn't been good or it's been his fault, but I am curious. Like I want to kind of spin this around on you. Is I've seen in a lot of comments some of especially like the tweets I posted after the game, just about the offense not being as good as it was, and there was a lot of pushback saying it's Steichen, it's the play calling. Uh, what do you think of that? Like I'm because to your point, like I think Daniel Jones has been okay. I think he wasn't as good before this week. He had some rough weeks, but I actually thought this week he was fine despite the fractured leg. It wasn't on him. Jonathan Taylor looks good. As you mentioned, the offensive line has regressed. They're not, but again, they're not bad. They're just not again as good as they were before. So I guess my question is to you: do you feel like there's some element of Steichen's offense being found out a little bit? Like you and Ted when at the Athletic here did a really great job breaking down what was making them so effective early on. And I'm wondering if like, hey, a lot of tape on the Colts now through 13 weeks. Do you feel like teams are on to Steichen a little bit more, and that's part of the problem here, or do you feel like it's really just on the players and the execution?
I think if you look at the Kansas City game, I would have said, oh, this is Steichen. Didn't
Yeah,
run the ball, threw it a bunch of times. That to me felt like a coach that was in over his head a little bit and maybe trusted his playmakers and players too much to the effect of, you kind of forgot you don't have Patrick Mahomes. They do. That's
right,
not Daniel
right.
Jones. But I didn't feel that way after this game against the Texans. I really felt like the players needed to execute for Daniel and for the coach. You look at the turnover with Tyler Warren, all the people were saying, oh, they got too cute. Well, catch the freaking snap and get the first down.
Yeah,
Like they've done it in the past. It's worked in the past with Tyler Warren. Why can't it work then? That to me was just bad execution. You look at a couple of the offensive line issues. There was a time when Will Anderson Jr. just bull rushed Tanner
yeah,
Bortolini right into Daniel's lap.
yeah.
That's not on Steichen. You know that's Will Anderson Jr. on the other side. You got to be better
Right.
there. There was a time where Bernard Ryman, he actually got bailed out in that game with an Alec Pierce. Let me back up a little bit. Bernard Ryman gets called for holding because I believe he pulled a guy down because he got beat. That negates a 12-yard catch by Josh Downs. And then on
Right.
the flip side, Alec Pierce gets it right back on the next play. But even then, I'm looking at these little like and Bernie, I talked to him after the game. He was very good. Bernard was very good about kind of breaking down like, hey, it's just one step, one play, one little thing that's missing for us
Yeah.
to click like we usually do, and for whatever reason we're not clicking. So I don't look at that as, oh, this is all Steichen's fault. There's times where I'm like, man, like when he started the game with three straight passes, I was like, have you not learned your lesson? What are you doing? Because there were times where Jonathan Taylor got going a little bit in that game, and I was like, why
Yeah.
would you do this? You know, that at one point they had what, six straight three and outs carrying over from the last game because you're just steady throwing the ball too much. But to me, I look at this team and say, if you make the plays you're supposed to, you win that game. And Josh
Yeah.
Downs is one of them. He had a crucial drop on third down late in that game.
Yeah.
And again, we can get into this too as well. The Colts now have a new kicker. It is no longer Michael Badgley. Is it Shane Steichen's fault that the guy missed a PAT? Like, you're not supposed to miss those. And for context here, Michael Badgley, who is now no longer with the Colts, he's been replaced by Blake Grupe, the former Saints kicker who was released by them last week.
Hmm.
Michael Badgley missed 3 point after attempts in
Yeah.
7 games. Over the previous 5 years combined, Jim, from 2020 to 2024, they had missed four as a team.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
can't keep that guy. That's not Shane Steichen's fault. So that to me was, I think that's just, frustration that's typical of any fan base. You know, when things go bad, you blame the quarterback, you blame the coach. But looking deeper at it, I really can't blame Shane for that one. But I'll flip this on you and have a question for you.
All right.
How much is too much to overcome? Because you have Daniel dealing with the
Yeah.
fibula injury. You
Yeah.
now lost Sauce Gardner. He's out. Fortunately, it does sound like he'll be back relatively soon. Shane Steichen ruled out IR because of his calf injury, but he's out. You now have a new kicker who, Blake Grupe, he hasn't missed any point after attempts this year, but he's also missed 6 field goals out of 28. I believe, oh no, actually 8 out of 28, which,
Yeah.
or 26. He's 18 of 26, I'm sorry. So 8 out of 26 field goals he's missed. That's
Oof.
not a great
Okay.
number.
Nope.
So how do you view how much attrition this team can kind of absorb while still trying to exercise some demons here, because we know they haven't won in Jacksonville in forever. And that's not only is it the Jacksonville game, it's a huge game as far as playoff implications go.
Yeah, so I'll say this for multiple things is I don't want to hear injuries, to be honest with you. Like I agree there's attrition, but there's attrition on every team. Like I mean, you talk about the Chargers are playing without both their starting tackles right now. The
Fair,
Chiefs are going to have to
fair.
play without two of their starting tackles and a guard. Like you can go down the list. Every team's banged up, man. Every team's got injuries. So I don't want to like. You got to be able to weather that. I think Chris Ballard's the first one to say that. I remember a post-season press conference with him saying like, "No one feels bad for you. No one cares about your problems. Like you deal with them or you don't. You win or you lose." And that has, that's true in the NFL. I will say too. I know people are probably sick of me comparing seasons of things that I used to watch, but like, boy, does this kind of feel like I was thinking about that 20. Sorry, I'm gonna get the right season here. 2019 season, the one where Andrew Luck suddenly retired before. And the Colts started off hot with Jacoby Brissett. They were 6-3, and then Jacoby had that like knee injury that he refused to kind of acknowledge and said he was fine and played through. And the Colts kind of just fell off a cliff. And like, hey, it sounds familiar. Like, right? They were in the playoff hunt. They fell apart. Like, whether or not these guys want to admit it is one thing. Like, I don't think anybody would question Jacoby Brissett's toughness. Nobody will question Daniel Jones's toughness. He's, in fact, again, one of the benefits of watching him for so long with the Giants is that I know how tough he is. Like, I've watched him take a beating and get up as often as he can, and doesn't sit, never complains about anything. But it does hinder his play. It will hinder his play, or and it can. Like, again, I don't think he was awful this past weekend, but I am saying that is going to be an issue they have to deal with down the stretch. Obviously, not having Sauce Gardner, like, man, I was thinking it's fun. Maybe I jinxed it because I was thinking about it before the game. I was like, the one injury as a Colt is like Chris Ballard that you can't have is the Sauce Gardner. Like, you just can't, because you gave up 2 first-round picks for him. Like, he has to make an impact this year in order for that trade to like look good. And then he gets hurt, and now he's going to be out for however many weeks. Now, no IR, I know, but it's just one of those things where, like, man, that is like the one you didn't want to have happen, because he's supposed to be the one that was like the difference maker for your defense once you got him. But again, I say all this and say they have to overcome it. Now I'm gonna let's keep spinning questions back and forth at each other, because I heard this the other day, and I am wondering how you feel about it. Was you look now at what's been going on? They lose to Houston, they lose to Kansas City, lose to Pittsburgh. Those are all teams that are either in the playoffs Actually, you know what? I just realized I don't think any of them are in the playoffs. They're all in the playoff hunt, but they're right on the edge of the
Slow
AFC
your
playoff
roll
hunt.
there,
Yeah, yeah,
Mr. Aiello.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The Steelers were last week, okay? They were last week. Um, but those are all those three teams that are in the playoff hunt right at the edge of the AFC. And if you look at the Colts schedule, do you start to wonder if they were a little more fraudulent than you'd think? Like you pound the Dolphins, who are fine. You pound again. I'm going to skip the Denver game because for multiple reasons. You pound Tennessee, who's terrible. You pounded them twice, by the way. You lost to the Rams. Pound the Raiders, who are terrible. Pound the Cardinals, who aren't very good. Pound the Chargers, who are good, but also were dealing with some injuries at the time. And then you have to go to overtime to beat Atlanta, and Atlanta is just not very good. Like you start to look at the strength of schedule stuff, and again, you can only beat who's in front of you. And I think you wrote, and I was right there with you. Like you're supposed to pound the bad teams, and they did pound the bad teams. But now that they've played some good teams, they've run into some trouble. So I am curious, like what element of that do you feel like is factoring in here? And the cool part is we're gonna get an answer, right? Like they got Jacksonville, Seattle, San Francisco, Jacksonville, Houston to finish the season. We're gonna find out if they can beat good teams.
Oh, absolutely. Shavarius Ward actually said this the other day, Jim. Because it was something along the lines of, hey, you guys, sense of urgency has probably increased. You know how big these games are. You kind of have to be in like that playoff mindset already. And he
Yeah,
was like, well, yeah, if we just go out there and win all of our division games to end the year, we'll be in. Well, yeah, but that's what this team has not done historically.
yeah.
So I do think, you know, how do I phrase this correctly? I don't want to just jump all the way out there and say this team is fraudulent, but they're looking a little funny in the light.
Hmm.
I feel like, if this was like a
Hmm.
jewelry, a necklace or something, it's starting to itch a little bit. Like I'm like, it's about to go green on me or something because for so much of this season early on, you looked invincible to a degree.
Yeah.
I mean, for the first 8 games, your one loss, we were like, well, you lost that game because one guy dropped the ball at the goal line.
Mhm.
You win that game if he doesn't do that. So that's not the case. I feel like there's been teams with better game plans, better execution, and they've kind of taken it to you the last few weeks. So I am worried in the sense of I don't know if you're for real. And the few chances you've had to answer that this year,
Mhm.
especially recently, you haven't. And I thought Cam Bynum had a great line in the locker room the other day where he said, I can't keep coming in here every week and saying we should have won. We were better than them, or we should have won this game because the bottom line is we didn't. And it's coming back to bite you. If they win either of these last 2 games, the whole conversation we're having today is a lot different. But now you're
Yeah.
reeling. Now you put yourself in a position where your back is already kind of against the wall before you have even really hit the playoff. And you're no longer cruising. You're no longer really in control of anything if you don't handle business. And I think that kind of adds to the stakes of, oh, yeah, it's Jacksonville. And I don't care what anybody says. I did ask about the streak to Shane Steichen. He looked at me like he wanted to kick me out of class. And I was like, look, you know, I love you, Shane. And I think we do actually have a good relationship. And he's a great dude with all of us on the beat. I always appreciate his time. But the funny thing about asking that question, Jim, is how annoyed the coaches and players get about it. And I always think that, okay, if you're that annoyed,
Yeah.
then end the streak. Stop losing to this team. And I
Yeah.
get that it's not always the same players. Like they've probably had, I don't know, a half dozen quarterbacks throughout this decade long streak of not winning in Duval County. But you got to get it done. And you really have to get it done this time, I think. Because if you lose this game, Jim, and maybe you can get into some of the playoff odds and things like that,
I
it
can. Yeah.
changes the complexion of your season by far. Like there are no more gimmies left, so to speak, when it comes to teams that aren't all that good. And on
Hmm.
top of that, like you alluded to earlier in the pod, your margin for error is so thin and it gets thinner every time you don't deliver in the game in the big games. And this team, historically, in the last 4 or 5 years, they don't win these games. They
No.
don't win down the stretch. I went back and looked at it. They are, I believe, 9-12
Oof.
in December and January from 2021 till now. So, I mean, what are you doing? But
Yeah.
at this time of year, you're folding, you're fading. You bet the house on a lot of these teams and felt like you had good programs, and they have folded like a house of cards. So with that in mind, Jim, how do you feel about perhaps some of the playoff implications, and can you fill in the listeners as to just how
Yeah.
big this game is based off our projections?
I would say you're generous, by the way, going back to 2021. I'm looking at the 2019 season with Jacoby Brissett. They were 1-4 in December, by the way. So you could have made
I
that
know. I
stat look
figured I
even
would
worse.
just do it like since they made the playoffs 2020. All right, so
Yeah,
every year
fair.
since 2020. But yes,
Yeah.
I could have definitely kind of lowered the hammer and the boom a little bit more for sure.
I said again, I want to mention real quick before I get into the odds of this week, but like degree of difficulty, it's not like just good teams. Like you're going on the road to Jacksonville, your house of horrors. Then you have to go to Seattle, one of the hardest places to play in the NFL against probably the best defense in the NFL if you didn't play it already in Houston. That's two road games. Then you get to play at home, but you get to play in prime time against the 49ers who have a bye this week. They're one of the privileged teams to get a late bye to get fresh, get healthy. And guess what? There is a week before the Colts game, but guess who they play? The Titans. They pretty much get two bye weeks in a row here. So the Colts are going to get a real fresh San Francisco team the next 3 weeks in Jacksonville, in Seattle, and then a real fresh San Francisco team like that. That's really really tough. And then you do play Jacksonville at home again, but then you have to go to Houston. Like you blew the division game against a tough team at your own house. Like that's tough. Like they have their work cut out for them. And again, like I'm not saying they're gonna blow it here. The Kings of Collapse as continue to reign as your story said, but I it's within the range of outcomes. And now to get to where you what you were alluding to, this game has monstrous stakes. Some of the biggest stakes of the week. Actually, we're going to have a story up on the Athletic tomorrow on Thursday. Yeah, with Austin Mock, it'll kind of lay out the biggest odds shift by game in terms of the playoffs and division odds for every game this weekend. It's actually a monster weekend. There's Packers, Bears, there's Cowboys, Lions on
Oh yeah.
Thursday. I mean the slate Ravens, Steelers. It's a loaded slate. But Colts, Jags is among them. And we did the research already. But yeah, if the Colts win, it's 85% chance to make the playoffs. If they lose, 51% down to a coin toss. It's a 50-50 shot if they lose. If they lose, and we were talking about the division, it's over. 14% chance to win the division if they lose this game. And again, it's because your division record is bad. You've lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are the team that is leading division. That's why it's a 40% shift. If they win against Jacksonville, they get up to 54% chance to win the division. So they give themselves, again, a coin toss chance, but that's way better than the 14% if they lose. So it's monstrous for them right now. To win this game, and you're right. It's kind of nuts that like not gonna say the season hinges on this because you have 5 games left, but like it's crazy to me that there's such a this game is happening right now, and of course it's in Jacksonville, the one place they just can't win.
Do you think there's some psychological weight to that? Because I get that like Daniel Jones hasn't been a part of this,
Yeah,
and Travarius Ward hasn't been a part of this. Cam Bynum doesn't really care. But for whatever reason, no matter who they've thrown out there over the last decade, they can't get it done. So do you think that weighs on them at all?
yeah.
Or at least the veterans?
I was gonna say the. I think for the ones who don't know, they're gonna get the like Daniel Jones knows now, right? Like he's heard his teammates
Yeah.
have said. There's no way to me that he gets through the week, even without the media, without there being some private conversation between him and Mo Alley Cox or somebody or Kenny Moore, somebody who's been around for a while that can be like, man, yeah, we haven't been able to figure it out down there. If it's the hotel we stay in, it's
Yeah.
the sun. I don't know what it is, but like we can't get it done down there. So he'll know. And again, I don't know how much pressure. Daniel Jones is probably among the best, I would say, in the NFL at blocking out the noise. I don't think a lot of that stuff gets to him, but yeah, I think it weighs on him. It's part of it. Like I do think that there's some part of Shane Steichen on a crucial fourth down, during the game where he's going to be like, we got to win here. Like, and maybe that'll force him into a right or wrong decision. I do think they're going to be going for a lot more fourth downs these days with the kicker situation, um, but yeah, I think it has to weigh on them. And I was just thinking too, though, you're irritating them with your questions about Jacksonville. You're calling them you're not calling them. You're saying they possibly could be the Kings of Collapse. They're gonna you're missed like A1 bulletin board material this week, man. Like they're gonna be throwing you up there, James Boyd, being like, "You see
Hey,
what he's saying about us? You see what he's saying about us this week?"
all I'm saying is, Jim, if they're reading The Athletic, then hey, we have done the right thing, okay? I will certainly appreciate those who can subscribe, and they make enough money to certainly subscribe for them and their entire families if they must, use me as bulletin board material. But I do think about that, and as much as they want to shy away from it, again, it's a conversation until you shut us up about it.
Yeah,
You
right.
can't win
I
there. You
agree.
haven't done it. And I think this is a golden opportunity to do so against a Jaguars team that is tough. I get it. Trevor Lawrence has been up and down this year, but he's coming off one of his better games of the year. Instead of Josh Hines Allen, who's I think one of the better outside linebackers, edge rushers in the league. I believe he just became their all-time leader in sacks for that franchise. So he's a very good
That's
player, somebody to keep
crazy.
an eye on as well.
Yeah.
So there's talent on the other side for sure,
Yeah.
and there's something to be said about again going there and winning or going there and losing, and having that piano get a little bigger when it comes to your back and what you're carrying and what you're trying to accomplish. Because then, whether you were a part of the Jacksonville losing streak or not, the question becomes, wait, are we good enough to get into the playoffs?
Yeah.
Are we good enough to do this? Because I think that doubt is starting to creep in a little bit. And they're not like full panic mode yet, but they're not going to be. My dad always says this. We're watching like basketball games, Jim, and you'll see like some team get up by 20, right? And everybody's playing free, you're playing loose. But when you slowly chip away at that lead and it gets down to the fourth quarter and there's 5 minutes left and it's a 4 point game, he'll always say the rim gets tight. And that's what it feels like
Yeah.
for this team. Everything you do, there's going to be an extra weight to it. Every throw, every catch.
Mhm.
So you can almost alleviate some of that pressure by going out there and helping yourself get at least a win this upcoming week to give yourself some breathing room. Because other than that, you're asking yourself to play perfect, and you
Yep.
can't do that. It's not realistic. And you know how this game goes, Jim. You're already kind of behind the eight ball when it comes to just bad breaks. Like it
Yeah.
looks like the Colts are getting all their injuries at the wrong time. Like if you had told me earlier in the year, oh man, DeForest Buckner's going to be out for 4 weeks in week 3, that's a little different than oh my gosh, he's still out and he can't come back to week 15. If Sauce, you know, I get that they traded for him mid-season, but say he had a calf thing pop up with the Jets in week 4, and by the time you get him at this point, he's healthy, you're fine. But now he's out for a while, and I don't want to dismiss the fact that you're going to have to rely on Jalen Jones or Mekhi Blackman, others who are maybe obviously less talented and less experienced than he is. What does that look like? How does Jacksonville game plan for that? Do they attack a Mekhi Blackman? He's one of your weakest links now. So that all to me is fascinating to see how they respond because you tell me this is different. That's from Shane Steichen. That's from the players. Kenny Moore, the second. Oh, we're a new team. Zaire Franklin. Oh, that's old news. Well, prove it. Regardless of the streak, regardless of anything else you want to say about Jacksonville, the bottom line is, as I laid out in my story, and please go check that out at The Athletic, you guys fold every single time there's a big game. I'll never forget, Jim, last year when they got boat raced by the Giants and Drew Lock at that time looked like freaking Tom Brady. Michael Pittman Jr. was like, we lost this game, but we won some big ones. We won some big ones before. And I want to ask him so badly, when? When?
Yeah.
When? Seriously, you have not.
Yeah.
You have not. So there's a lot to consider there. And I do want to, like I said, I don't want to dismiss. What was your reaction when you saw Sauce go down?
Oh.
Because that to me, I mean, we've gotten, I guess, the most positive outcome from that, with it being just a calf injury. And according to Shane Steichen, it is not an Achilles. He is fine Achilles wise, but he'll be out for, I would think, a few weeks. But just your reaction to that and knowing the caliber of player and what they gave up to get him.
Yeah, man. Like I said, it was like the one player that you couldn't afford to lose. I felt like just because you needed him to make an impact, and like I saw somebody write this in a story the other day. I don't know if it was Sando or somebody, but like AD Mitchell has won a game for the Jets before Sauce Gardner's like won a game for the Colts. You know what I mean? And like
Oh,
that's
man.
and I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to read it that way, but like you get it, right? Like you get it.
I did get a few screenshots of 80 stat line right after that happened.
Listen, I don't think anybody, you and me have been never said anything more than, or I think Bud, that guy is very talented. Like he's got some stuff to work on in terms of his growth as an NFL player, but like talent's always been there. I mean, we've seen it. The guy is incredible at separating.
Right.
It's just a matter of what he does after he separates, which is, it's usually it's an adventure. But I think that if anybody needed like reps, I think we compared on this podcast, we've compared him to like I said, I think he's kind of like the receiver version of Anthony Richardson a little bit, like super talented, just needs to play a lot and learn what it means to be an NFL player and at his position. And so I think if you give AD Mitchell a lot of reps and he stays healthy, good things can happen. So anyway, good for AD Mitchell. I don't think there's anybody in the Colts building who's not wishing him well. I know that's not how Colts fans, or any fan views a trade. You
Right,
always want
right,
the other guy to
right.
be terrible, but like that's just the way it is. So anyway, no, I saw Sauce go down, and it's yeah, it was one of the, it was one. It was like, oh god, the impact, like how much you gave up. But two, it was like I want to see Lou Anarumo's defense like at peak. I want
Oh,
to see what he
preach, brother.
I just want to see him unleash what he wants to do. I think again, we saw a lot of man against the Chiefs, and I thought they played pretty well in that. But like, or at least to a degree, I should say. I think Kenny Moore had a rough game in that game, but outside they looked good. And I just want I want to force Buckner back. I want this whole thing to look the way that it's supposed to look, so I can at least see it for a week or two to know that, hey, if they get to the playoffs, like this is what we can count on. But right now, you just can't get all the pieces together in the right, and no one's going to feel bad for the Colts. This is what happens to every team. Everybody, like, they're going to play the 49ers team that lost Nick Bosa and Fred Warner is still figuring out ways to win games, right? So, like, it is what it is. But I was bummed to see it. I will say, though, I think as soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, Achilles. Like that's what I thought. Like I think everybody did, right? Like you saw the way he went down. You saw like what was hurt. You heard calf. You're like, okay, calf needs Achilles, and I thought
Especially
he's
around
done.
here. I mean, the Tyrese
I
Halliburton
know.
injury started as a calf. Now he's out for the year because of an Achilles.
Yep. No, that's exactly what I thought. And so when I heard calf, and then he says he's okay, I still was like, let me see what these MRIs say because I don't know. And again, I'm happy for him. I'm happy for the Colts that it's not worse. But I do. Let me ask you. I guess you've been around more of these, but like, do you have concern if he comes back too fast, that something bad could happen? Because again, we've seen this before, right? Like we've seen the calf leads to the Achilles, and now I think in your head you made this trade for Sauce Gardner. Is like, yeah, he helps now, but we pretty much our first round pick in 2026 is Sauce Gardner, right? Now
Yeah.
you don't get if he's out with an Achilles, you don't get a 2026 first round pick. That's the end of that.
Yeah, that's a very big point you just made. I guess for me, I did see him in the locker room today. He was walking around way better than he was on Sunday. No crutches, pretty good spirits, joking with his teammates. And maybe that's a sign of how much of a sort of tragic injury he avoided because he is in good spirits. He's still around the team. Like I said, no crutches. But part of me thinks that they probably have to approach this. And Shane was very definitive and like, no, we don't think IR is a possibility. So
Right.
without the IR thing hanging over your head, maybe you think, okay, he's going to be back within the next month. We say that's the case. 3 week minimum for me. I'm not rushing him back before that. I look at it like the Kenny Moore injury from earlier this year. I know he had like some Achilles tightness, so he sat him down for about 3 weeks. He missed 3 games. I would do something like that. And even then, I still would be like, have to know for sure. Give me the data, give me the X-ray, give me the MRI, give me everything to make sure I'm not putting this guy at risk because if it does become worse and God forbid he tore his Achilles, he's done. Not
Yeah.
for this, not only for this season, but next season, like that at
Right.
this point. So you have to be very, very, very cautious. And the hard part is like you don't really have time. And the one thing I kind of fear with this defense, Jim, is like I'm just wondering, can they get whole at the right time? Like
Yeah.
assuming you get DeForest Buckner back, can you get him back and get him back to playing at that level? Same thing with Sauce Gardner. Same thing to a degree with Javarius Ward. I know he's got a lot more on his plate without Sauce
Yeah.
in there, but he admitted earlier this week, like, hey, my head, I'm still working through some stuff. And we all know the tragedies dealing with having lost his daughter
Yeah.
last year. She will turn 3 this year, and he posted about it. And he's been very candid about just some of the trauma and hurt that he's dealt with since her passing and how much that maybe has affected him on the field. And not to mention the severe concussion that he came back from. So, man,
Yeah.
I did have a chance to ask Lou about that this week, and he was just saying, like, I can't really cry over it. But yeah, I think there is something to be said about wondering what can this defense look like whole because we've seen the offense look like what like when they're whole. We've
Yeah. We
seen
saw
what that looks
peak.
like.
Yeah.
That has
Yeah.
been amazing.
They've been
They
healthy.
yeah, and exactly they do have to I think try to get back to that level. Looking at both the tackles, got to play better for sure. Daniel Jones, hopefully, can get healthier. JT is still JT. Can you create some running lanes for him? All of the above. But yeah, there are a lot of questions I think that have to be answered over the next coming weeks. But for now, it'll come down to Duval County. Duval.
Nice. Nice, Liam Cohen.
because
It's
because man, as goofy as that man seemed in that moment, his team freaking loves him. I feel
Yeah.
like they are locked in. They believe that they can go out there and win. And not only is it a tight race for you and the Jaguars, I mean, Houston's right on your heels right there at 7-5. So both of you guys are 8-4. You and the Jaguars, they're at 7-5, and you don't have room for error. So in a way, Jim, I'm excited for the game just because it's always funny going down there because they don't win there, but just because of the stakes. Like I think
Yeah.
this is gonna have sort of a playoff type of
Yeah.
atmosphere to
It
it.
should.
Yeah, for sure. And then on top of that, I think if you want to be different, you got to do something different. You've done that a few
Yeah.
times this year, but this is the biggest of all of that. Winning the season opener, cool, fine. Starting 2-0 for the first time 2009, cool, fine. But now it's down to the nitty gritty. The teams that are good, they find a way to win, no matter what it looks like. And I get that, you have valid excuses for why you have a slippage in play, but nobody cares about that, man. This is the time of year where you got to put your stamp on your season. So we'll see how it
I'm,
goes.
yeah, like I said, I'm just looking at this. I'm looking at this game and I'm going like there's ways this gets real dicey real fast. Like if they lose, it's a 3 game losing streak. You know, Jags pull ahead in the division by a game with the tiebreakers. I'm wondering if the Bills win their game against the Bengals. You got some other AFC wildcard teams that are playing games that they could win. Like, what? My last thing before we leave here is just what do you think if you're leaving Jacksonville with another loss? And hey, this team snapped the season opener streak right this year, so maybe they could probably snap another one. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're leaving Jacksonville with a loss, what's the state of panic? Honestly, like where are you going to
Yeah.
be? Where's this
Yeah.
team going to be? Where are the fans going to be?
Boy, and they're already on the edge. People telling me it's over, it's done, and I'm so used to this. No, it's not over. I'm not believing that.
Okay.
I do believe they got something to show, but you're running out of time to kind of prove any differently and to kind of end a lot of that those things. But again, as much as players try to talk about it like, oh, that's only outside noise, I think there's an internal part of it too. You got to prove to yourself you can win these games,
Yep.
and you have a chance to do that Sunday down in Duval County. So I'm looking forward to the trip. Hopefully, there's no issues there. I've had some crazy flights the last couple of times, man. But I'm looking forward to that. Thank you all for listening. Be sure to check this out. And actually, I'll end it with this. The funniest way this game can end
Hmm.
is on the leg of Blake Groupie.
Okay.
New kicker. Does he line it up and win it for you, or does he lose it for you? Because like that to me is what that would be the most Colts Jaguars game ever. Is it
It's
coming
coming
down to the kicker
down.
you just signed a week ago?
It's these two teams, man. It's going to come down to the end. There's going to be at least one stupid turnover on each side.
I
Like there's going to
know.
be just some ridiculous plays that happen in this game. And you're right. It's probably going to come down to the kicker they just signed. And that feels like a coin toss at best. At best.
Oh Lord, this is the life we live, the life we chose, Jim. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you all for listening. Be sure to check out all of the work we put out at the Athletic. Not only myself, but like Jim mentioned, Austin Mock's got a great piece coming out on playoff projections and where everyone's going to be and matchups and all that. So we're looking forward to the de facto playoff game, so to speak, here coming up this Sunday down in Duval County. So until next time, my friends.